Well, welcome back to the Public Relations Podcast. I'm Richard Midson. Now, I get a lot of pitches from podcast agencies and from PR teams offering guests, and there's a big variety of approaches. You know, some of these are absolutely great. It connects you with someone who is really interesting that I think you're going to get a lot of value from. Some are not so good and pitch people who have nothing of value to the show at all. But I got one pitch the other day that was really good, and it pitched someone that works at one of these agencies. And I thought, what a perfect opportunity to go behind the scenes for me to find out more about this, and also for you to find out more about this and find out how the agencies work. Because, I mean, pitching to outlets, particularly traditional press, as we know, used to be a mainstay of public relations. But today, it's about pitching to everyone and getting stories out there right across the board. So I'm absolutely delighted that I clicked on this particular email and replied, because I got Liz Brooks on today. Oh, by the way, just before I chat to Liz, I just want to say for everyone listening right now, I'm going to be away for 2 weeks in Thailand. If I catch anything interesting there, I will let you know. But otherwise, there's not going to be a podcast for a couple of weeks. But right, let's get back to Liz. Well, very good evening to you. Good morning from me, Liz. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you, Richard?
I'm not bad. I'm really pleased I did click on this link because, as I say, sometimes I do get through. And this is no different from traditional PR, where you used to get these kind of spray and pray pitches. You know, you get some pitches which come through and they go, yeah, this is really interesting. Some that don't. I mean, what we should get into this about the differences with traditional PR. But the first thing I love to ask people about is something that they're working on right now, some kind of trend that they're seeing. And we were kind of touching on this before we started recording about NGOs. So come on, let's talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think I work with a number of clients across different industries. A lot of them are professional coaches. A lot of them work in B2B, startups, etc. I do also work with a number of nonprofits. I think those of us, especially if we've been in traditional media for a while, we're very familiar with editorial calendars and the different topics that we cover, different types of year, depending on the industry. And I think a lot of industries will have kind of like their flagship season where they get the most coverage. Specifically with nonprofits, typically we know that happens in the fall, surrounding Thanksgiving, the season of giving, everything like that.
Very
so that's
noticeable
usually
bump where people want
yeah,
that sort of interview.
exactly.
Yeah.
So in this like one particular vertical, that's usually when we see that huge push.
Yeah.
And I've been working with a lot more of these clients again recently, and something that I've noticed that has been really surprising to me, and I think a lot of our team coming into the new year, is the kind of overwhelming amount of bites that we are getting from other podcasts related to nonprofits that usually would be more quiet during this time of year. And I think what we're starting to piece together already, you know, the political atmosphere has been changing and kind of flipped upside on top of its head already.
Funding and all that, yeah.
Exactly. And I think that is already so strongly having an influence, like in this sector, already kind of like turning the calendar on its head. We're seeing a lot more now than we would typically this time of year that we would usually see in the fall. And I think we're going to continue to see that throughout this year, I think, across different industries.
How is this actually manifesting itself, though? Because are you kind of putting out the normal number of pitches, but you're finding that everyone wants them?
Absolutely.
Or are people kind of coming back and saying, yeah, I don't want to talk about that, but I want to talk about that? I mean, what are you actually seeing when you reply in the email?
I think, you know, obviously there are the folks who were out during the holiday season who are coming back and are now, you know, just like revamping their shows, getting back into it. But again, just from working in this industry for a few years, the volume and the amount of interest that we're getting for these clients right now has been a lot more than recently before. And I think it's just because of the focus in nonprofits and trying to expand that message right now in the current political environment across the board.
I haven't seen anything asking about that topic, though. Are they sort of saying, look, we want to talk about funding? Because, I mean, I don't know a huge amount about what's going on in the States, but is that
a lot of it is community crowdsourcing, like how to get involved within your local community and try to start that change there, kind of try to protect those local units.
Gotcha.
That is where we're getting the most success. That is also where a lot of our clients are doing the work right now. And I think we're also getting inbound requests from podcasters as well, asking for clients and for just commentary within this field.
Yeah. And I mean,
And on this
it's
topic.
very much like traditional, and I really want to talk about comparing with traditional PR, but it really is, isn't it? It's kind of saying, okay, as we would have said in the past, what do the journalists want? What are their angles? What are the pressure points that they know they've got to deliver to their audience? And we're kind of saying, well, how can we deliver the right guest with the right conversation to them, isn't that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also, especially in the tech world, we're going to be seeing a whole bunch of different kind of coverage just in the way that all of these tech giants are now working with this administration. It's very different from what we saw 4 years ago. I think the level of involvement that they're going to have, within the political scope is also going to play a much larger role than it did before. So I think, again, across all industries, not just nonprofit, we're going to see a lot of changes in the traditional editorial calendars that we're used to. And I think we're going to see a lot of flux, I think, in what the media is going to want to be covering. And that's also an opportunity for us, both on the podcasting side and on the traditional media side, of being able to newsjack that and use that, to our advantage and to our clients' advantage as well.
Interesting. So, I mean, you must have a sense of kind of how you're going to plan the year ahead. I mean, obviously, like with all news, it's changing all the time. So you can't say in December, we're going to be doing this in November. But you must have
We try to.
Well, yeah, we try to. And then it always bloody changes, doesn't it?
Yes.
But I mean, how do you look at that and monitor? Because there's only so much you can predict ahead, isn't there? So are you looking?
Absolutely.
Are you looking at the legislative agenda, or where are you looking for the kind of those cues?
I think something that's really important to us is working with our clients in terms of what their calendar looks like, what they're trying to push as well. So we always, on a quarterly perspective, try to see what is coming down the pipeline. What do you have? What stories do you have that we can try to position in an angle that will go with what we think is going to be happening in the news, or what podcasters are going to want to be covering, what their listeners are going to want to listen to.
Basically, you're bridging their story to what's,
Yes. Like, you're trying to find that happy marriage there. I think we're still going to be able to do that, but we're going to have to be on our toes a little bit more in terms of trying to keep our finger on the pulse of the changing news cycle.
Because
just try to stay ahead of that and try to
predict it, or what?
Exactly, and to try to leverage that for our clients with what they have going on. But yeah, we can only predict so much, I think.
I mean, we're always short on time because I'd love to talk about these things for hours. But let's talk about that kind of comparison with traditional PR and podcast PR. I mean, what would you say is the main differences? Because ultimately, in the simplest terms, you're putting forward a client, a pitch to an outlet, to get them on that outlet so they can deliver their story. It's exactly the same as traditional press, but there must be some key differences you've seen, because you've worked in both. So I'm really interested in what you've seen.
Yeah, I think, thought leadership back in the beginning of my day kind of immediately picked up on the idea of being on podcasts. And that's something that grew and that I started specializing in even while I was still working within traditional PR. I think there's still a lot of value in traditional PR, but it is a little bit archaic, print media. It's sometimes harder to get into, but also people are reading it less and less. As we talked about before, everybody is a reporter now. The media is everyone. So I think it's becoming more challenging also for those traditional outlets to keep up. Also, everyone's on the go. We're not always able to read a full article or anything like that. So I think when you're using specifically podcasting, because with video too, you still you have to sit down, you have to focus. But with podcasting, you're able to reach people who are commuting to work, who are taking care of their kids, walking their dog, etc. So it's a much more, I think, accessible way to reach new audiences. And also very specifically, it's a way to personally connect with them. It's a much more human, kind of like laid back way to deliver your message and to connect with your listeners on a personal level that might resonate with them a little bit longer than something that they just read on their phone really quick on the bus. Exactly.
What about the actual sort of pitching side? I mean, like I say, as an ex-journalist, the thing that we used to hate was spray and pray. Okay, these sort of very poorly written press releases that were sent to every outlet, and they never really connected with you. And as I said in the introduction, I get a real variety. I get people like you, your company, that sent out a good pitch. I get some people that are just so completely off the mark, and they say, I love your show, not quite, but can I play some music on it? And it's like, well, of course not. You know, it's
Well,
completely wrong. What do you think goes wrong here, and why do some people do it right? And what do you need to do to
I
do it
think
right?
this comes to this in this sense, it's the same in this world than it is in traditional PR.
Yeah.
You have to know your journalist, you have to know your podcaster, you have to know who it is that you're sending an introduction or a pitch to. Um, we're very familiar with the spray and pray method. Like a lot of our clients will come to us and they're like, I want to be on Joe Rogan.
Yes.
And we have to ask them why. Why do you want to be on Joe Rogan? Because it sounds to me like you're trying to do the spray and pray method. I don't think they're going to like his audience isn't going to exactly click with what you're trying to do. So we always say, you know, better is better versus bigger is better. We're trying to find a targeted audience that's actually going to be interested in what you have to say, that's actually going to deliver your ROI. And we look at that in terms of the podcasters that we work as well. You know, we want to listen to your show. We want to know who your listeners are, what you're looking for, so that we can actually try to introduce someone who's going to deliver value to you and your listeners versus just trying to get a win for a client, if it will. We want to get a win for both sides.
How do you do that?
You know,
at scale,
that's what makes us successful.
Yeah, because I think this is one of the problems you get with the smaller sort of podcast pitching agencies. Is that it's logistically, how do you do it? How do you spend time listening to all these people if you've got a bunch of sort of lower paying clients that just want to be put out there? And I kind of feel sorry for them, but they're just not going to get the results.
I understand. I mean, I'm a client account manager, so most of the clients that I work with only see my face and only talk to me. But we do have a team of 20 plus people behind us who are listening to these shows, who are helping weave together the pieces. Like, okay, I'm familiar with this podcast. I've been working with this podcaster for a while. I think that this client is going to be a good fit. So they will actually come to me and pitch shows to me that they think are going to be a good fit. And then I go through those and actually see, okay, what is going to be the best fit for my client from there. So we have a whole team of people who actually are working to specialize on these shows, to listen to them. And then, of course, there's just more and more software coming out that helps us with that. You know, AI is coming a long way. We work with a lot of licensed databases that help with that as well. But yeah, we just have a whole team of people that are trying to connect the dots and who really are trying the best that we can to listen to these shows, to know what it is that you're looking for, essentially.
But it's like, one of the things that I always liked about podcasting was exactly what you said there, which was it was compared to the Joe Rogan thing, is that it is niching, because it's far, in my view, it's always better to get an audience that's engaged, that is interested in your message, than to just put it out to a generalist audience that doesn't care. It's far better to get 100 people that want to buy your product than 1,000 that couldn't give a damn.
Yes. I'm a musician on the side. We said this before, and I always like to use the metaphor that I would rather play a small club on a Wednesday night than play a farmer's market on a Saturday where I'm going to reach 1,000 people where I'm just background music versus playing for 50 people who are there really for the show. The people at the farmer's market aren't going to follow me on social media or buy my music, but the people at the show probably will. Yeah. So again, it's a more targeted audience, and I think ultimately that's who you want to reach versus, again, the spray and pray.
I think it's so crucial. You've got to, even if it's just that top line, which has a relevance to that podcast that you're reaching out to, and that it shows, you know, even if they listened to the first minute of it and they picked up something and they said, "Oh, I love the way that you talked about this," or something like, just anything to hook it into, rather than feel like a pure generic pitch, makes such a difference, certainly from my point of view when I receive it, and as next journalist.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And again, I didn't work as a journalist, but I did journalism in school. So I always tried to work that into my pitches when I was doing that. Like, what will they want to cover? You know, try to get into the head of the person that you're writing to.
I love that approach from your company. I love the way the pitch came through. I really appreciated that. Liz, we are out of time.
Well, thank you. I didn't write that one. So that's my team.
Well, in which case, give them a pay rise. Give them a pay rise. Listen, Liz, we're out of time already, unfortunately, because we could, as always, talk for hours about this. So how can people reach out to you if they'd like to reach out to you? Let's do that bit first very quickly.
Yes, thank you, Richard. You can find me at interviewvalet.com/Liz. You can also see the other podcasts that I've appeared there as well. And you can connect with me through there, or I'm also on LinkedIn, LinkedIn/Liz G like Golf Brooks.
And in one sentence, what do you think is the future of podcasting? Very quickly.
I think there's going to be a lot more of it.
Awesome. Liz, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much
I don't
for
think
your
it's
time.
going anywhere.
Really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks so much,
Bye.
Richard. All right. Take care.